Hey, what's going on YouTube, and welcome to my channel. In this video we're gonna make Impact M3 trigger better, smoother, cleaner brake action. Gonna polish up a few things, and I'm gonna explain how the adjustments are working on first stage and second stage. I'm gonna show you how which screws doing what, and by showing you how it exactly functions in here, it's gonna make you understand better. You don't have to take your M3 apart just like I did. I had to do other things to it, so I completely stripped it down. You don't have to do that. All you have to do is just remove your bottle. And then I would unscrew the barrel as well. And also you want to release all the air by slightly unscrewing the second regulator. All right, first of all, remove your trigger guard. I assume you already got the bottle out, the barrel removed, and you released all the air from the system. So you have no air on the front regulator, and the second rear regulator completely empty, air empty. So now remove your trigger guard, 4 screws. You know how it goes. And you need to remove this plate right here. You're gonna have to get your little needle nose pliers, and you need to pull out 3 pins. Okay, before you take this apart, don't be afraid taking it apart. There's only two parts in there in that system. You cannot put it together wrong. It's very simple system. Simplicity makes it easy. So you're pulling out this pin right here. When you pull that pin out, there's going to be a little spring right there. Just kind of hold on to your trigger. I'm going to do it right here in front of you, but just hold on to the trigger. Don't lose that spring. I mean, it's a pretty good size spring, so you can't really lose it. Then you need to pull this second pin out, and the third one is right here. Right, so you get your first pin. Just kind of hold on to the trigger. Spring comes out. This is what I was talking about. Okay, then you're gonna remove the second pin right here, put it aside. They're all three pins are the same, so don't worry about mixing them up. All 3 pins are out right there, all 3 the same. And now you need to get something skinny and get the sear plate out of the way. There you go. All right, one thing I want to mention is, this is going to improve your trigger by far, but since you're already this far in, I do highly recommend getting it to this rod right here and polishing off this rod, because you know how you have a first couple of shots are very slow and then it's speeding up. Well, because this rod right here, well, I polished mine up, but it's really rough condition. I mean, this thing is pretty much rough. When you get it out, you'll know what I'm talking about. So by polishing off, you make this movement smooth, and then by that your first shot not gonna be instantly, as fast as the rest of the shots, but it makes it better. Instead of firing 5 or 6 shots to get it up to speed, you only gonna need to fire 1. So it makes it better. So to do that, you need to unscrew this valve adjustment nut right here. Get that thing completely out. Then this thing is right there, 11 millimeter. Unscrew that. It's not super tight. And then on the end of this rod, you'll see this guy right here. I would recommend holding the rod with your pliers, but don't grab it with the pliers because you're gonna scratch it. You need it to be nice and without any gouges or anything. Get a piece of leather or something. Hold it with that leather, and inside this guide right here, there's holes, 1 on each side. Put in your small little something and just keep unscrewing by holding this rod with your pliers. Keep on screwing. You after a couple of turns, you can unscrew it by hand. Get that out. Then you need to unscrew this neck right there. Pull the rod out a little bit so it's not connected to the back. Pull it out a little, unscrew that, and the whole assembly comes out. You can polish it off. What I did is I used 2000 grit sandpaper. I went with 2000, then I went with 3000, and then I polished it off with little buffing compound, something, you know, get one of those, you know what I'm talking about. Polish it off so it's nice and smooth so it moves. And then later on, you lubricate it with some kind of light gun oil, not the grease, but like some light oil that makes it's a game changer right there. But that's on a different note. So now let's get to the trigger. So this is how trigger works right here. This is your hammer assembly right here. This is your hammer. So let me zoom in, focus right here. As you're pulling your charge lever, you're pushing your hammer housing back, and as it slides right here, it slides on this sear. It goes all the way to the back, and it catches right with this lip right here, catches on this part. And then when you release, and it slides back right over here on this end, pushing it, you know, down, latching it, and then it catches right there. And then when you push the trigger, it releases, and then it slides again. So trigger slides on this trigger sear all the time. And when you get your hammer housing right here, this guy right here, the hammer, it's rough. So when I took my sear apart, I had a whole bunch of shavings in here on top just from sliding it on these surfaces. Polish up your hammer. Again, I went with 1000 grit sandpaper, then 2000, 3000, and then I went over with polishing compound, and I made this thing nice and polished up like a glass. Now, next, what you need to polish next. I did polish this deck right here where your hammer slides on. Put your 2000 grit sandpaper on a flat surface. Use something like, I don't know, piece of metal, some kind of flat piece of metal. Lay your sandpaper and just nicely, don't grind too much, just kind of slide over it until you see that thing polished up. Then use your sandpaper, polish it off in here, because I know that hammer housing slides on this part as well, on this deck right here. And then I polished off right here because this is an important part. There's a lot of sliding happening in here as well. All right, now let me explain how this works. So as the hammer slides in and latches right there, the trigger rests, the sear rests on top of this trigger roll, they call it. Okay, it rests on top of it. As you pull the trigger, it moves back and it drops down into this cutout, and that's when it releases the hammer. It drops down, it releases the hammer, it goes down, and the hammer strikes by sliding it on top of this surface right here. Okay, so you're polished off the bottom right here. Don't go crazy. You need to make sure that edge right there, it's nice and straight, and don't touch it. But that's why I'm using only 2000 and 3000 grit sandpaper right here on these surfaces, because you can't really mess it up with the 2000 grit sandpaper. I mean, you really have to work it hard in order to take too much off. So you're polishing off the top right here, the top of that trigger roll. You're polishing off the sear, the whole surface right here, this surface right there, and the top part, the deck and the sear itself. and then you're polishing off this bottom part right here so it slides on top of that roll nice and drops nice. I mean, I can already feel it. You'll know the difference. I can just, oh, he just wants to nice crisp break when you pull the trigger. And I did a little bit of polishing on the front surface because that's the front is sliding down right here. Okay, so once you polish those off, on the surfaces where you polished off, I'm gonna put a little bit of grease. I'm using just you know, just the grease, and you don't need a lot. Just get a little bit. Let me show you how much. You don't need a lot. Just a tiny bit. And then your where's my parts are? Just tiny bit. Just tiny, right here. Touch it with. That's it. You just need a nice thin coat right here. Hard to see behind the camera. And then same thing here, you're putting some right there. I'm gonna put some on this surface in here, and I'm gonna lube this part right here, this, you know, sliding surface. I always put some grease inside the hole so it rolls nice on the pin. And I'm gonna put one right here in this area and on the opposite side right here, because that's where it sits inside the block and rides, you know, the swivels on the side. So you want to, you know, if you want to polish this off, might as well, but it's not tight in there. So put a little bit in there. Same thing here. I'm going to put a little bit of grease right on each side right there. That's where it rolls on the pin and inside the hole. All right. And now we're going to go to adjustment screws. So the two screws you're adjusting are really the first stage where you pull the trigger until it's ready to, you know, that free play until you're ready to break to fire. I like to have a lot of free play because I don't want to be touching the trigger and all of a sudden it breaks. You know, I want to, like, exaggeration right here, but I'm just saying I want to bring it in and it stops. Okay, and now I know as soon as I pull a little bit more, it breaks. So this is what this screw right there responsible for, first stage. And the second stage is this bowl right here. This is this larger one that countersunk right there. This guy right here. This guy right here inside the hole. This is your second stage. The second stage, there's a little spring inside and a ball that when you press, it kind of springs. So you're just tensioning the spring inside that. That makes that spring tighter and the ball harder to push. That's when the ball hits that one of the pins right above it. And as you press, you're pressing the ball inside there, and that's when that release happens. Okay, you understand? So this first one is your pull, and then by tightening this set screw right there and putting more tension on the spring inside, you're making that ball harder to push. That's what makes that break. There's one more screw. This is I call it pain in the ass set screw. This is what adjusts your safety mechanism. So by screwing it in and out, you adjust how your safety works. Okay. All right. Does this make sense to you? If you have any questions, ask in the comments below in the video. Now we're gonna assemble it back. I'm gonna show you how to assemble, and I'm gonna give you a few more points on this whole deal when we're wrapping up. We're almost done here. All right, and before we assemble, when you're polishing off your hammer, okay, you're just polishing off this surface right here, and I did a little bit right here where my finger touching. Really, try not to get into this because this edge right here, that's where it breaks. You don't want to mess with that, okay? Then also polish it inside because your actual hammer weight and the spring are sliding inside, okay? If you have not polished surface, I polish my spring up, okay? And I put a little bit of grease on the spring, on the hammer weight, and a little bit inside just so it's nice and smooth and the hammer just operates nicely in there. Just my 2 cents, okay? Now, let's assemble that trigger back. So in order to do that, you take the sear, okay? And the hole for the spring, should be pointing towards the handle. Okay, you slide it back inside in there. Use your something. All right, there you go. Easy. All right, that sears on. The pin kind of, yeah, anyway, the sear is on. Now you put the spring back inside into the hole of the sear. All right, and now take your bottom plate, and the spring goes over this right here set screw. This set screw right there, this guy right there, that's where the spring goes. Okay, so we're gonna line that up first, and then we're gonna push the block in there, grease your pin, put your pin. This thing right here should be a lot. It wants to, there you go, that's why it's not. This is a lot easier right there. Okay, you got it in. And the third one is supporting the sear. So you want to raise the sear up, and then you want to put the pin. That's what stops it from dropping it too low. Now, let me explain those setting. Let me get you going right here so I can see it better. Okay, all right, so I don't know, can you see? Okay, so this travel right here, remember I said that I want travel the first stage, you know, this is how much travel I want. So when I even a little bit more, okay, let's give it a little bit more. That travel screw, that first stage, we're gonna unscrew a little more, another half a turn. When you're dealing with adjusting those, you're doing like 1/16 of a turn. So this is my travel first stage. So I get on the trigger, I get this play right here, and I stop. I know when I stop, the next thing when I do, it's gonna be actually releasing the trigger. And that's when that little, remember that little housing with the ball and the spring inside, this screw right here, that's when, after it stops, that's when by pressing it, you're compressing that screw and that bolt. That's what you adjust here. And then let's say, you know, you adjust what you want it to be. So you break and then you pull, and that's when it releases. Now let me simulate this because we don't have it so okay, so hammer's right here, the sear is right there. I don't know if you see it. See, it's riding on top of that roll right there, and I'm gonna press it from the top. And first my travel, see, my travel happened, nothing happened, and as I start pushing in, that little ball spring compresses, and then it drops. Okay, now you understand how it works now. So when you want to do your adjustments, by understanding how it works, it makes it easy for you. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Really quick note, if you adjust this first stage too far in, this will not let that sear to latch, you know, and then when you pull the handle, nothing happens. It doesn't pull back the hammer, it doesn't latch because you adjusted too much in. So just back that out, keep unscrewing it until it starts working again. That's what happens when you're when you tighten this too much. Okay, the first stage travel, you know, then just start losing it up and then it'll start working again. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Let me deal with the safety screw. Assemble it all back again. When you're assembling this, put just a little bit of grease on your hammer, on the spring, on your hammer weight, a little bit right there. Put oil on your strike rod, very light oil. Assemble it back, you know what to do, and you're back in business. Let me know if you have any questions. I hope that helped someone, and subscribe to my channel. More videos coming up. Thank you for watching.